Always nice to be in the pod with you.
Yes, it is so nice to have this conversation live and in person, and we want to keep it that way. That's the goal.
That's the whole point. So this made news in addition to a bunch of other corporate announcements from companies all over the place this week. What is the policy and why the change?
Yeah, our policy is focused on the trading floor. Given the unique dynamics of the open floor plan on the floor and people interacting in close quarters, we started saying we want to make sure that people are vaccinated in this location. When we reopened the trading floor last summer, we have seen the reduced volatility that we can deliver to our customers, which is really critical. And as we opened over the past several weeks to guests back on the trading floor, we required guests to be vaccinated before they could come onto the floor because it was an optional visit. And we weren't yet requiring all of the traders that earn their living on the trading floor and our employees that work on the trading floor to be vaccinated. We have been encouraging it, though, and we've been using incentives to get people vaccinated, which have been really effective. And our floor vaccination rate is already over 75%. But given what we're learning around Delta breakthroughs and other protections that we can place, our goal is to keep the floor open. And we are applying the same strategy that we've been applying since the beginning, using the information that we have at hand and the local conditions to make our decisions. And so with that, we've decided that anyone on the trading floor needs to be vaccinated unless they have a medical or religious exemption.
All right. But it sounds like it was more proactive than reactive. In other words, it wasn't a response to a hike in positivity rates or anything like that.
Absolutely. In fact, we've had great conditions. I mean, we haven't seen everything has been really effective for us over the past year. And that's what we want to keep. And part of the reason why we've had such success is because you can resume gathering if you're careful about it and thoughtful about it. We've seen it. We heard from Disney today that they were really effective in managing their policies. So we want to make sure that not only are people vaccinated when they're on the trading floor, but others on the floor know that they're interacting with people who are vaccinated, which is why we partnered with Clear. We're using their health pass to prove vaccination status as people enter the trading floor so that we can continue to gather in close quarters.
All right. So for all the HR managers who are having to make their own decisions about this in corporate suites all over the world, did you get blowback on this? Was this a fraught decision on your part?
You know, obviously, any decision that you make on this front is going to not necessarily have uniform support, but overwhelmingly, it's been very positive. Importantly, the people who are vaccinated want to know that they're around other vaccinated people, too. So while the decision, while the more people that we get vaccinated across the country is good for the country, every business leader needs to make their own decision based on their own specific circumstances. For us, and specifically in this environment where people are gathering together in close quarters, it was the right move.
Right. Upstairs, your corporate office work, you were planning on a September return, I think?
Yeah, we're working toward a September return, but obviously we're making all of our decisions based on what the local conditions are. And so we have been doing that since the beginning, and we're not going to stop now.
Morgan, I think you got a question, too.
I do. Stacey, it's good to see you from the other side of the stock exchange floor right now. Just to shift gears a little bit here, I mean, it has been an incredibly robust year for IPOs and companies going public in general. What is your outlook for the rest of the year in terms of that pipeline, especially as some of the largest offerings we've seen have not necessarily performed very well once they've gone public?
Well, so 2020 was a record year, and 2021 is already proving to be another record year. Investors are being discerning about which deals they want to support, and they're looking. Not all deals are created equal, and we've certainly seen that. But the pipeline remains to be really, really strong, especially for operating companies that are looking to go public. And what's been interesting about the 2020 and 2021 dynamic is how it's cross sectors, right? Consumers, tech companies, healthcare. We've seen really all sectors be really very active. And we're starting to see SPACs pick up again, too, as we had one here this morning.
Certainly, we're keeping an eye on that as well. I mean, the other thing that's kind of interesting is how companies are structuring their offerings as well. I mean, you mentioned the SPACs. We've had some more direct listings as well. But even the more traditional IPOs have been doing things like allotting more shares to retail investors, allowing insiders to sell a little bit more quickly and not necessarily be subject to the same type of lockup periods. Are we going to continue to see more of that?
Absolutely. And Morgan, it's such a great trend for companies and their investors to have more choice and more flexibility. Anytime you disrupt a market, you start to challenge the status quo. And that's what we're seeing. With direct listings, it really led to people to think about their lockups and think about those structures. So right now, companies have more control over how they want to go to market. and how they want to structure that offering. So some might choose a direct listing, which really prioritizes reducing the cost of capital and democratizing access to that event, which is, as we've seen the rise in retail trading, it's really encouraging to see those retail investors get the same access on day one for a public listing with a direct listing. And then in an IPO now, they're also looking at what do those lockups look like and what is that structure. So there's a lot more flexibility than there's ever been before, which is a good time for it, considering there are so many companies coming to market.
There actually are so many that there have been reports written lately about not enough bells. There's simply not enough bells to satisfy all of these new clients. And as a result, you've had to make different ways of celebrating, at least here on the floor, right?
Well,
I mean, that's a commentary.
They're not new, and it's really a great thing. I mean, there's nothing more sacred than that 14 square feet on that bell podium in finance. The first trade bell, though, is really what marks the moment, and you've seen them on the floor. I'm sure it disrupts your broadcast in the middle of the day when you're trying to talk,
yes.
And you hear the cheering right in the middle of your sentence, because that represents the first time a company is open for trading, for public trading. And now all investors get to share in this success. That first trade bell is really a unique moment, which is why it breaks into your broadcast.
Yeah.